Hello, crazy transformers, and welcome to Level of Crazy podcast, where we dive deep into all topics EI, EQ, healing the divide within ourselves and with each other, transforming that reactive crazy RC into proactive PC, optimizing that emotional intelligence. I am your host, Ala Esther Levy, emotional intelligence specialist, minister of spiritual healing, and undercover comedian. And today's episode is going to be a good one. And it's called, Hey Grandma, did you figure out the Zoom yet? So, guess what? We're talking about EQ and technology beyond 60. Our guest today on Zoom is Annie Goldberg. She is a 72-year-old beautiful and talented mother of two sons, three granddaughters, and a beloved of David Hall, who, by the way, will be on our show in the near future. Annie began teaching other seniors to use technology in 2013 and has taught group and private lessons from Cutler Bay to Port St. Lucie. Her goal is to inspire seniors of any age to know they're old enough to have a past and young enough to have a future. Since technology is such an important part of our future, being tech literate is an important part of all of our futures. And just a reminder, per request for a donation link, we have placed it in the show notes below, so please support our work. Now let's get into it. EQ to the rescue. So Annie, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you today, Esther?
I'm excellent. Now, you know that I'm an undercover comedian, and so of course I had to come up with a joke for today's show. Now, I have to say this joke is not my own. It came from ChatGPT, so I'm going to share it with you. Ready? All right. Why did the senior citizens bring a ladder to the computer store? Because they heard the tech support guy say their password needed to be updated to a higher level.
I don't think GPT won that.
Yes, it is true. I did ask him to try a little harder a couple times, and this one was the best one it came up with. So I'm gonna have to come up with my own jokes moving forward.
Well, wait a minute. I'm looking because I did the same thing, and I'm looking to see because I did get a really funny joke.
Okay.
I'm actually going to use.
Give it to us. Give it to us.
No, I'm not seeing it in these notes, so I'm not going to bother looking for it.
Okay, no worries. So let's get into it, shall we? Now
I know what it is. Why did the
me.
grandpa throw his cell phone? Wait a minute. Hold on. Oh, why did he throw it out the window? Why did he throw his cell phone out the window? Because he was a sellout.
Because he was what?
A sellout.
Oh, goodness gracious.
That was
Got it.
GPT too. Also, not a really good joke. You can cut that from the final.
All right. Well, the good news is that we keep things pretty raw around here. So we're going to keep that in. We're going to have a good time. So the good news that the listeners, I'm sure, will understand that ChatGPT has its limitations, but it also has its great stuff. So it's all good. And okay, so let's get into it. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And you know, me and you have a very long history in terms of friendship, and we've known each other for about 13 years, right? And so, you know, we've both, I guess, seen each other going through all these different transformations and all these processes with career and ups and downs with relationships and life and just so many things. So it's such an honor and so great just having you here on the show. So, let me ask you right off the gate, what got you into this work with technology and, doing what you're doing now with Savvy Seniors?
Well, it's actually kind of a cool story. It was October of 2013, and it had been a very, very difficult year. And prior to that, I resurrected a recruiting career and I was doing really well. And then everything crashed in 2009, and 2013 was just the extension of all that mess. And I had gone through, I don't know, 6 or 7 different jobs that either I quit or got fired from because I hated them. They were not right for me. And on this particular day, I was coming home from another job that was not right for me. And I was just out of ideas. And I remember I got home, I literally hit my knees and I said, I surrender. I do not know what I'm supposed to do for a living. I don't know what people would pay me to do. So I'm not going to look for a job. I'm going to stop doing that. And I'm going to watch the signs. You send me the signs, I'm going to be looking. But in the meantime, I'm going to clean my house and help my friends. So I was at the home of a friend of mine. This was about 10 days later. I was at the home of a friend of mine who had had wrist surgery, and I was helping her. And the phone rang, and it was the 6th senior from our temple that I did not know, never heard of, 6 different people who called and said, I hear you teach computers to seniors. I need help. And Esther, I never told anybody that. I never, ever said I teach computers, I do anything like that. And after the 6th call, I remember so vividly, I looked up and I went, message received. I'm supposed to teach the computer to seniors. Okay, I get it. And I sat there and I went, well, I'm a senior and I'm pretty savvy at this. Oh, Savvy Senior. I'm the Savvy Senior Services. And that was it. October 2013. That's when it happened. And it was, I believe, a divinely inspired vocation that I just kept at it and kept at it. And I'm in my 10th year, going into my 11th year, actually, of helping seniors learn how to live better through technology. Yeah.
That's awesome. And, I love what you say about, it's divinely appointed because I'm very, I'm huge about spirituality and the signs and just knowing when we're supposed to do something and when we're not supposed to do something and how we're divinely guided if we truly open ourselves up to that. So I think that was very powerful. And I'm so, excited and proud and just like in awe of you that you were able to recognize that ability, because so many of us don't, we totally ignore those signs.
Right.
So good for you.
And I think with respect to, EQ, I was out of ideas. I could not think my way into a solution for this. And the only option that I had available to me was to surrender because I just didn't know what to do. And I had a great calm actually come over me when I did surrender. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
that's
got jobs
awesome.
right away. I got paid like right away. Phone calls, boom, jobs, boom. So it worked.
Salute. So that's amazing. All right. Well, let's keep going with this. Because there's so much of a tangent that I know I can go off on spirituality and all that. But we're gonna talk about spirituality on different episodes. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, it's amazing. I'm so glad you did that. So why do you think that our emotions and technology are so interconnected? And, why do you think there is so much stress, anxiety, self-consciousness? Why do you think that happens?
Well, when you hand a person who is 60 or 70 or 80 years old a phone, It's not a phone. Let's first of all say that. It is not a phone. It's a handheld computer. It is a complicated, sophisticated device that we colloquially call a phone because it has programming on it that allows us to use it as a phone. So you hand them this device, and you go, here, look, this will solve all your problems. And it's the same thing as being dropped into the middle of Greece without knowing the language. And all of a sudden you're looking around and you kind of see things that might be familiar, but nothing looks the same. And that throws people. You have to have a really strong survival instinct if something like that happens to be able to go, okay, I can do this. No, most people don't. They're afraid. Besides which, they all know it costs between $800 and $1,200. This little, handheld computer that we work around. That's David and I. We were in a 50s party, so aren't we adorable?
And just for the listeners, so you're showing your phone with your picture of you and David. Very nice.
Everybody knows.
Okay.
Phone. Or a miniature handheld computer.
Yes.
So there's a lot of fear. They're so afraid. They're afraid of what they don't know. They're afraid of breaking it. And so I explained to them, there are only a few ways you can break your phone. Like when you throw it against a wall in frustration, that will break your phone.
And we all know we've done that a couple times.
Well, I've wanted to. I have wanted to. And, it's just, I remember once throwing a portable phone because it was such a highly programmable device. And I was so furious because you couldn't just pick up the phone and make a phone call. You had to do different things. And actually, in a fit of anger, which was not my greatest moment, I threw it on the floor, smashed it. And it's just when something becomes so unfamiliar and frustrating, the phone rings and they can't just pick it up and go hello like we used to. And so the frustration and the fear completely take over. And actually, most seniors lose the ability to understand English when they look at a phone. Because when you're doing something on a phone and it's time to finish what you're doing and it says done at the top of the page or the bottom of the page, and the seniors, my students will look at me and go, what do I do? I said, well, read the page. What do you read on the page? And they'll read the word done. And I go, what does that mean? And they look at me like, I don't know. It's the funniest thing. And I laugh and I share this with them. It's astonishing. They lose the ability to recognize English words because it's sitting on this just alien device that they just do not understand what it is. So it's fear and frustration that get them going. And then very often, their kids or their spouse will try and teach them, but they've got a whole history of dynamic emotions going on. So when a family member tries to teach them, there's a lot of frustration on everybody's part. The family member just cannot fathom why their parent or sister or brother or whatever can't get it. And then the person is just, they get very upset because they're not being acknowledged for not understanding. So it's and then, it's about changing habits. That's stressful. Have you ever had to change a habit?
Of course.
It's not easy. It doesn't happen right away. You have to do it like any other behavior. In order to change a habit, you have to practice the new habit. And that doesn't come easily. So you're asking them to change habits of how they do things in the world, and you're asking them to do something that they're not being successful at. And those combinations of things brings up a tremendous amount of stress and frustration and aggravation. So that's what I see.
Yeah, you're bringing up a lot of amazing points. First of all, when we talk about that this is not a phone, you're absolutely right. Like your comment there about this is not a phone, for this is first and foremost, this is a computer. This is a handheld computer.
Mhm.
So what you said there is brilliant, because 100%, we think it's so easy. It's taken me when I was living with my parents, I actually taught my dad how to use the phone, and it took quite a while because he's so not versed with technology. He does not do any of that stuff. And so even trying to teach him how to use a phone was, it took a minute. So, but good for him that he's finally doing it. And it was my greatest achievement, actually. um,
Took more
to
than
get
a
him to
minute.
finally, sorry.
Took more than a minute. Took a lot of
Yes,
minutes to teach him.
but he's doing amazing now. But still, the other issue that you brought up was, you know, 100% that this affects people's self-esteem. It affects, the whole dynamic, like what you said about the family dynamics. It's so important because not only are you already having these family dynamics and these these whatever's that we have with our families, right? And now you bring in the element of this phone, so now the ability to do something, and now the family members trying to cheat you, and so now all of these, self-doubts and self-esteem and lack of confidence and all these emotions that we already have about ourselves, and now
Mhm.
they get brought into the picture, dealing with the family. So yeah, very important point. um
And
and just go
dealing
ahead.
with the family can bring about power struggles,
Yes.
especially if it's a kid teaching a parent. It's easier for grandchildren because there's a different relationship between a grandchild and a grandparent. But a child and a parent, that can become fraught with power struggles, and spouses of any, doesn't matter. Gay spouses, straight spouses, whatever, it doesn't matter. Those power struggles are always the same. Somebody knows more than you feel stupid.
Yeah, 100%. When you asked me, have I ever tried to, start a new habit, right? Doing this podcast. I'm used to doing video. I'm used to doing YouTubes. This is very new for me. I had to speak to, my podcast company several times about, what do you mean podcast? What do you mean audio? What do you mean, you know, I have to make sure that, the audio is 100%. I don't understand what you're saying. Like, what do you mean describe the show? What do you mean? Like, have a storyline. What does that mean? So, yeah, realizing that this is more of a radio show than a
Mhm.
television show, and
Mhm.
making sure that I describe every single thing that's happening so that in case people aren't watching, yeah, it's a whole other mindset. And so, yeah, very, very important. So, let's go a little deeper here and really talk about, so how do you think that learning technology can improve our emotional intelligence, especially after 60? AKA, let me make this a little easier, AKA being able to recognize and manage the crazy.
Well, you know, when you mastering something is a wonderful feeling of accomplishment. And so it's very important to stick with it, because not being able to do it can makes they say it all the time, I'm stupid. And I tell them, you're not stupid. You're just uneducated about this thing. But that doesn't make you stupid. It doesn't mean that you can't. But learning a new technology, learning to use a new device. How about those VCRs back in the 80s and 90s? Those were hard to master. Most people didn't. Most people just figured it out as best as they could, but very few people really mastered how to use them. So mastering something is wonderful for self-esteem and for feeling empowered. So those are great things. And the opposite is stressful. So when you're feeling stressed because you don't know how to do something and then you master it, that's a wonderfully, again, empowering place to be.
Yeah, that's great. It's true. It's true. You know, every episode that I finish, every episode that, you know, just gets accomplished, even whether there was some technology issues or, you know, or it went smoothly, doesn't matter. It's like a check, you know, I did it the best way I could. I showed up, they showed up, and we all made the effort, and here we are. And whatever happens on the other side is what happens on the other side, but at least we made the attempt, and we made the you know, the journey to accomplish this new thing. And so what you're describing is exactly right, especially if you get a chance to master something. So that's even better if you ever actually become, you know, an expert, and you can actually just, you know, run circles around, you know, yourself, actually, because you're really not competing with anyone else. You're competing with yourself. So I love what you're saying there. That's very, very good.
It's even with this
So
job for me, finding myself in this position, and again, being divinely inspired. And it's true. I am never as happy as when I'm standing in front of a group of people teaching a class. I love it. The bigger the group, the happier I am. I feel like I am absolutely where I'm supposed to be. And that reverberates in my personality and makes me feel more confident and more self-loving, because, oh, look what I did. Look, I built a business from nothing, from just an idea. And here I am 10 years and supporting myself. Wow, that's amazing.
yeah,
So,
that is amazing and good for you. You know, one of the things that I learned from Tom, this was a term that he created, but I said it to myself in a different way, is he always says, you know, we learn by doing. And it's very true, because I, over the years, you know, through corporate America, when I worked in corporate, and through the EQ work and everything that I've accomplished to this point, it's always been learn by doing. So, you know, you don't really know. We don't know what we don't know, and we only know once we do it. So it's exactly right. So, you know, that's one of the most important, I think, statements that we can say to ourselves when we do feel um, stressed or nervous about something new, is we can say, you know what? We learn by doing. I know now what I didn't know 5 minutes ago. So it's all good, you know, and if we can just keep moving that way, I think that's a very powerful tool. So tell me, how do you recognize and manage your level of crazy when it has to do with technology?
I resist the urge to throw my phone against the wall. uh, you know, when I get really stressed about it, something happens. Typically, I'll try a few times to fix it, but then I'll say, walk away, go outside, look at the sky, listen to the birds, take a couple of really deep breaths, and then go back in with a different point of view and put on my curious hat and try and figure out what the problem is.
Awesome. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, all you can do is just, you know, try a couple times, and then, you know, just stop and go back. I'm down with you on that one. That's for sure. And, you know, dealing with the technology that we're dealing with now, you know, with everything on being on Zoom, or, you know, the podcasting or whatever it is that we're doing, it can get so frustrating, and you just like, yeah, you know, you just don't know what to do with yourself. So I definitely agree with you. Stop, go outside, take some deep breaths, You know, maybe call a friend, call you.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll figure it out. You know, we will always figure it out. And if we don't, we don't. But, you know, I think just stopping and really just taking a breath and really just
Removing
starting
yourself,
over again.
removing yourself from the situation. It's really not a whole lot different than when you're dealing with a toddler having a tantrum. You know, you just got to breathe through it and just understand that they've got to work out their thing, and it's just the what is, right? So when
Yep.
you're faced with something frustrating, how do you deal with it? Well, sometimes I'll just see the humor in it. Oh, look, that's kind of cute how they're flailing themselves on the ground, you know. Okay, and wait it out for a minute and then come over with a different attitude toward the child, and somehow it miraculously changes. So when I change, when I am able to take a couple of deep breaths, see the humor in whatever is going on, and recognize that whatever somebody else is doing, I still have control over what I think, say, and do. I can't control them, but I can control me. And, you know, you're in a relationship. It happens all the time. You know, you butt heads with somebody because everything is so close. And what I've learned through that is that when my beloved and I will get into something, I'm learning at some point to just stop and go, no, 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 don't do this. There's no value to this whatsoever. Just change the situation in whatever way you can. Sometimes that means just letting him rant and saying, yes, you're right, honey, it's true. And then later on, when everything is calm, then really talking about it and getting down to, come on, what happened there? Let's talk about what just happened. And then we're able, again, with a clearer perspective, with a fresh eye, we're able to do it differently. And that has really gotten me through a lot, just thinking something through.
You know, it's fascinating how we really do respond to everything in life the same way. So, meaning dealing with technology and how we respond to technology is usually the same way that we respond to relationships, conflict, and so on.
Mhm.
So, you know, this is why combining EQ with all these different points of views and companies and everybody that I'm interviewing, it's really about that. It's really the bottom line here is raising our EQ so that we can be able to manage our crazy in every scenario, right? And
That's
so
right.
yeah, it's exactly right. Exactly right.
You know, there have been times when I've been teaching a class. I remember I had this one woman. She was very opinionated, and she didn't like something her phone was doing. And she said, change that. I said, I can't change that. That's the way the phone is. She goes, but I don't like it. And I looked at her and I said, well, I'm sorry you don't like it, but that's how the phone is programmed and you can't change it. This woman got so angry with me. And I looked at her and I said, ma'am, I understand that you want this to be different, but it can't be. And you just need to accept that. She didn't take another lesson from me. She didn't like
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Well, if we look around, we probably, if we really took an observation of her life, we probably would see that she probably handles a lot of things in her life that way.
She's very intuitive.
So,
She wanted what she wanted when she wanted it, and everybody has always done for her what she wanted, and I was not, because it
yeah.
was not you know, it's like when the phone turned on and they gave her a message. I don't want that message. That's how the phone is programmed. You can't change that message. It was that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, at some point, I just had to recognize that this woman was having none of what I was saying, and it really wasn't my problem. It was
Right.
her problem, and I didn't get all twisted about it.
Yeah.
That stuff happens, you know.
Right.
I used to tell my kids when they were younger, kids were bullying them or saying nasty things. And I would say to them, if you saw somebody take a bunch of dog poo and put it in a paper bag and then throw it at you, would you let it hit you? And they said, no, that's disgusting. I would never let that hit me. I said, well, their mean words are just like dog poo in a bag. If somebody throws mean words at you, don't let them hit you.
Yeah. It's true. It's wise words. Don't let the bag of poo hit you. By
Get
Annie
out of the
Goldberg.
way.
That's a good one. That's a good one, folks. Make sure you guys remember that one, okay? Now, let's talk about some techniques, right? So, I know you mentioned a couple things, taking a deep breath, going outside. Is there anything else that, our listeners could try in terms of practical examples, like with the actual phone? Like maybe there's a one or two things that that is a consistent issue for people, and maybe there's some, like a button or some, I don't know, just something that they could go, oh yeah, you know what, I remember listening to a show, and that lady said, do this if this happens. Is there something that usually happens that you can give a tip about?
No, not really. When I do lessons, we write everything down because they're not going to remember. The nature of memory, and especially in someone older who has a lot of memories and there's a lot of stuff going on. If I show them a sequence of things to do in order to edit a picture, as an example, we have to write that sequence down. Because even if they're touching the phone, which is very important, they have to tap, they have to touch to get the tactile sense of it. And I write down notes. Well, there is something, if they are comfortable and they remember that Siri, if they have an iPhone, or a Google Assistant with an Android, can answer most of their questions, but they don't all remember that. So they don't ask the questions. But it's very hard when if a senior doesn't remember something, there is no tip other than look at your notes. And I promise you, if you keep practicing, it's just like learning an instrument. Unless you are a savant who sits down and plays the piano like, who knows, that's unusual. Most people, they take a piano lesson, and what do they have to do all week until the next lesson? What do you have to do? You have to practice. If you don't practice, new memories won't form. That's just how the brain is structured. And it's about neuroplasticity. It's about the brain forming new memories. And repetition and sleep are the two major components of forming new memories. So it's about looking at something. And if you don't remember and it's causing you stress, walk away. And that's what I tell them. Walk away. Swipe up or press your home button and just leave the page, because nothing is going to be accomplished when you get that level of frustrated. Just put it down, put it away. Text me, call me, or wait until our next lesson and I'll show it to you.
Yeah, I love your website, by the way. I went to your website and I love your little tips of the day or the week or whatever it was.
The
And
videos.
yes, I love them. And your website is so cute and so animated and so informative and so simple to understand. So I really encourage everybody. We'll have Annie's information in the show notes. So I really,
My website is very under construction right now. It's
oh,
actually,
right,
I
right.
am I am moving from the savvy senior to branding everything for my upcoming book. Take this
Okay.
phone and shove it.
Yes, congratulations on that.
Thank you. And the subtitle is A Frustrated Senior's Guide to Smartphones. And so thank you for that compliment. It kind of blows me away because I'm looking at my website going, oh my God, this has to be, and this has to be, this has, but I'm leaving those videos because I do think that they're great. And I do think that people can get value. And I'm going to be replacing them with tech tip videos as
Yeah.
time goes on. So the website, I mean, I invite anybody to visit savvyseniorservices.com, but it is definitely a work in progress right now.
Well, remember, we are our biggest critics. So,
That's true.
you're going to look at your website and be like, oh, this is
Oh, it's
terrible.
terrible.
Right. And I'm looking at your website and going, oh my God, she's so creative. This is so good. We're so stupid. That's why we have a level of crazy, you see?
Right.
So I totally get it. But if you're okay with it, we'll put that one on the show notes and everybody's welcome to go check it out. It's really fun. It's a fun place to go. Now, any final ideas, thoughts, suggestions for our listeners on technology and getting their EQ up there?
Well, keep your sense of humor. Without a doubt, having a sense of humor when you are learning anything is so important. When you're challenged, not even just learning anything, but when you are challenged for something, if you can keep your sense of humor, that would be my first step. And, keep in mind that learning this handheld computer is really great brain training. As we age, it's so important to keep learning. Learning is calisthenics for the brain. We want our arms to be strong, we're going to lift weights. If we want our brains to be strong, we need to keep learning. So that is a critical piece. Keep your sense of humor and remember that this is a great tool to keep your brain sharp. And the more that you do it, the more comfortable you will feel with it. I like to tell my clients, get curious, play on your phone. And they look at me like, how could I play on this? Tap everything. Just tap, see what happens. Tap and go back, tap and go back, time after time. Look through it, see what's there. You don't have to make any changes. You're not going to break your phone. Just look and see what's there and be a detective. Like this idea that words lose their meaning, their English meaning. Be a detective. If you see cancel and you're looking for a way to get out of what you're doing and you see the word cancel, oh, it means cancel. It means I don't want to do this anymore. So I think that is really, it's practice, practice, practice. And when you get frustrated, walk away, have a drink, go outside, as we talked, do something different. And what could really be a good thing is take a walk, get the blood
Yeah.
flowing, right? And then come back to it after being a little energized, or maybe just leave it until the next day and then pick it up with a better frame of mind, because it's all about your point of view. Everything, I mean, if I have a point of view that I can't, then likely I won't. But if I have a point of view that I can, then likely I will. So it's about the desire and practice and keeping a sense of humor, and then hiring a really good teacher like me.
Exactly, of course. It's wonderful what you're saying. I've been learning Italian. Tom, we plan to be traveling in September to Italy, and Tom signed us up for Duolingo. And so I've been practicing my Italian, and I don't get to it every day. I wish I could, but sometimes I'm just too exhausted. But there's a process about that they say, when Braden talks about this, is that when you start to learn a language, or in this case, learning a new skill, you start to link the little adapters together. And, it all starts to create these neural pathways. When you stop doing that, it starts to delay the learning and they actually disappear. So you have to keep working on it
Have to
so that
keep
it,
practicing.
so they continue to kind of like they find each other, when you
Well,
just when you create this new skill. So it's very powerful.
it's kind of like two electrical impulses. And as you practice, those electrical impulses get a little longer and a little longer and a little longer until finally they actually connect. And in the connecting, that's the new neural pathway. There are
Yeah, great
literally
way.
electrical impulses in the brain. And so it is the act of repetition. And then in sleeping, because it's hard to form new memories if you don't sleep, because that's when the brain actually says, okay, what did we do today? Oh, yeah, well, I see these neurons made a connection. Let's make that permanent. And of course, I'm simplifying it very much, but ultimately, that's kind of the process that happens. So
Yeah.
with your Italian, the more you practice, the
Hmm.
better you'll be. When, I would say to you, Esther, when you're in the car, if you're on a long trip, going from one place to another, put on the Italian and listen to it. These are the times when it's sort of a static time, and that's a good time to practice something. Now, somebody playing the piano, they can't do that when they're driving, but practice everything. So how to manage the crazy, it is keep your sense of humor.
Trust me, I'm getting plenty of Italian. This guy's turning on Italian all the time in the house. I feel like I'm in an Italian household now. So
Good.
so it's great. It's great. Um, okay, very good. The other thing I was going to comment on was, when they're pointing on their phone and you said, don't worry, you can't break anything. I was thinking, yeah, they can't break anything, but they just might end up on some sexy sites.
Not necessarily. I mean, there is another way you can break your phone. That is if you click or tap on a link in an email or a text from someone that you don't know who it is. Yes, you can lose your phone to ransomware that way very easily. Ask me how I know. It happened to me and my phone was gone. Nobody could fix it. I had to buy a new phone while I was still paying off that phone,
Mm.
because ransomware, you're just out of luck there. So never click on anything that you don't know what it is. And if you get something from the IRS saying that, you are in trouble and we're coming after you, it doesn't work that way. And you can always go to,
Exactly.
don't click on anything in that link. Just go to the irs.gov and see if there's a problem there. But there's not. So yeah, always keep your wits about you when you're using technology. And if you do see some sexy site that you're not interested in, swipe up.
Exactly. Okay, guys. Well, let's wrap it up here. And thank you so much, Annie, for being with us today. It's been an amazing, amazing conversation. I hope that our listeners have learned a lot. And if they didn't, they can always reach out to you and learn some more. So till next time, everyone, join me in closing with my quotes. So if you know it, please join along. When you know and understand yourself, the world will know and understand you too. And remember, what's the best that can happen? Now let's get crazy. Okay, everybody, till next time. Thank you, Annie, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.